There comes a moment in the life of every believer, a divine turning point, a shift in the atmosphere, when the waiting ends and the breakthrough begins. And I declare to you today, by the sound of the Spirit, your waiting is over. The desert you've wandered in is about to bloom. The door that stood shut is about to swing wide open. The prayer you've whispered in the midnight hour is about to be answered by the thunder of heaven. You've been walking through dry places, through storms and shadows, through seasons where it felt like heaven was silent. You've questioned the purpose of the delay, wondered if the promise had passed you by, asked the Lord, how long? But I tell you now, He has heard you. Not a single tear has fallen unnoticed, not one cry has returned void. The waiting was never wasted. It was preparation. The pain was never pointless. It was planted. The silence was never absence. It was setting the stage. God is not a man that He should lie, nor the Son of Man that He should change His mind. What He spoke in the secret place, He will fulfill in the appointed time. And the appointed time is now. Now is the moment when chains break without warning. Now is the hour when walls come down like Jericho. Now is the season where years of sowing burst forth into supernatural harvest. You've been waiting, but heaven has been working. Just as Joseph went from the pit to the palace in a single day, so too God can shift everything in your life in one divine moment. Just as the Red Sea parted at the last breath of desperation, so too your deliverance is arriving when it seems darkest. Just as Sarah laughed at the thought of bearing life, you too shall laugh as the very thing you thought was impossible comes forth by the hand of God. Get ready, because what you thought was delay was divine timing. What you thought was denial was divine orchestration. What you thought was the end was only the prelude to glory. God is not only about to move, He is already moving. The wind is already stirring. The foundations are already shaking. The trumpet is already sounding. The angels are already assigned. The breakthrough is already written. This is your moment. This is your crossing. This is your rising. The waiting is over. Not because of your striving, but because of His faithfulness. Not because you've earned it, but because He's ordained it. Not because you're ready, but because He is ready. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Watch Him part the sea. Watch Him roll away the stone. Watch Him open the heavens and pour out a blessing you cannot contain. Your waiting is over. God is about to do it. There is a mystery in waiting, a tension that stretches the soul between what was promised and what is yet to be fulfilled. In the silence, in the pause between the word spoken and the word fulfilled, many begin to question. The heart asks, has God forgotten me? Has He changed His mind? Has the promise expired in the wilderness of time? But the truth is deeper, higher, stronger. What seems like delay in the eyes of man is divine alignment in the eyes of heaven. What appears to be stagnation is actually a holy preparation. The seed does not burst forth the moment it is planted. It must rest in darkness. It must endure the hidden season. It must trust the process of rain, of pressure, of time. So too, God deals with His people, not according to the impatience of man, but according to the perfection of His will. The promise of God is not subject to expiration, nor is it diminished by the passing of days. If He spoke it, it shall come to pass. He who began a good work is faithful to complete it, yet in His faithfulness He weaves a tapestry of preparation that is invisible to human eyes. What you called a delay, heaven calls development. While you were waiting, He was shaping your character, refining your faith, preparing you for the very thing you asked for. The longer the wait, the deeper the root. The deeper the root, the stronger the tree. And the stronger the tree, the greater the fruit it can bear. So many pray for rain, but do not understand the process that precedes it. They cry out for the open door without being trained for what lies beyond it. They hunger for miracles, but are unready to carry the mantle. But God knows He is not slow in keeping His promise, as some understand slowness. His timing is not late, it is exact. Throughout Scripture, every move of God was preceded by a season of stillness. Abraham was promised a son, yet the fulfillment came not in his youth, but in the years when it seemed biologically impossible. Why? Because when the promise is fulfilled in the impossible, only God gets the glory. Moses wandered the wilderness, not aimlessly, but purposefully, being refined in the silence for the calling that would change nations. David was anointed as king, but before he wore a crown, he endured caves, betrayals, and the sharpening of his spirit. These delays were not denials, they were divine proving grounds. They were sacred pauses where heaven whispered, "Not yet, but soon." In those pauses, faith is purified. When you walk with God, you must learn the rhythm of eternity. He moves outside of our schedules, beyond our deadlines. He is not bound by earthly time, but operates on kairos, the appointed time, the strategic time, the time that shifts everything. And when that moment arrives, it doesn't trickle in. It comes like a flood. What was once stagnant suddenly surges. What was once barren suddenly births. The waiting gives way to the glory, and the years the locusts have eaten are restored in an instant. But none of it is random. None of it is wasted. Every tear you cried was caught in his bottle. Every prayer you whispered in frustration was recorded in his scroll. Every night you wrestled, he watched. Every disappointment, every delay, every detour, it all serves a greater orchestration. He uses time not as a punishment, but as a tool. The delay becomes a womb, and in that hidden place, something holy is formed. While you were lamenting the weight, he was building the weight of his glory within you. Because when the promise comes, it must find you ready, not only externally, but internally. Not only with open hands, but with a surrendered heart. That is why the wait exists, not to torment, but to transform. Not to hold you back, but to bring you forward in the fullness of what he has prepared. Delay is not denial. It is divine timing wrapped in mercy, disguised as silence. It is the signature of a God who sees the end from the beginning and knows the exact moment to move. While you were pacing the floor and questioning the silence, while your heart was aching with every unanswered prayer, heaven was never still. Though you saw no sign, though the heavens seemed like brass and the waiting room of your life felt endless, there was movement behind the veil. God does not sleep nor slumber. His angels are not idle. His spirit never pauses. While your hands were tied in waiting, his hands were working in ways beyond your comprehension. There is a realm unseen by human eyes where every word spoken in faith sets things into motion. Every prayer that rises like incense does not disappear into the wind. It stirs action in the heavenlies. What looks like stillness is not inactivity. What sounds like silence is not absence. The moment you called, the answer was set in motion. But there are times the manifestation requires alignment you cannot yet see. Heaven operates with divine intelligence. God is not only orchestrating what concerns you, he is aligning people, preparing places, shifting seasons, even adjusting circumstances in other nations to converge at one moment in your life. The complexity of his plan is far beyond human understanding. Like a master weaver, he is threading every fiber of your journey, every pain, every joy, every delay into a tapestry of fulfillment. You saw time passing and thought nothing was happening, but in the eternal realm, the pieces were falling into place. You looked at closed doors and thought the answer was no, but in heaven, construction was taking place to build a better door you never imagined. What looks like a detour is often the main road in disguise. What seems like a setback is often the setup for a divine comeback. Even in the wilderness seasons where you felt abandoned, you were being watched over. Like the Israelites in the desert, led by a pillar of cloud and fire, God was guiding even when it didn't feel like guidance. Manna was falling when they didn't expect it. Water was coming from impossible places. Their feet did not swell, and their clothes did not wear out. He sustained them even when they were on a so too he has sustained you. That job that came at the right time, that friend who spoke a word in season, that burden that lifted when you almost gave up, all were signs that heaven was moving even when you didn't ask for a sign. Heaven works in layers. While you waited for the external answer, God was working on the internal transformation. He was healing wounds you didn't know you had. He was pruning relationships that couldn't go with you into the next season. He was closing doors that were not his best. He was preparing your character to match the capacity of your calling. Because what he's bringing to you must not crush you, it must bless you. And so he waits until the time is right, until the vessel is ready, until the foundation is strong. That is not delay. That is love in action. That is heaven working, not on your timeline, but on his own perfect schedule. Every silent season is filled with divine motion. While you were praying for one door to open, he was opening another behind the scenes that would lead to far more than you asked. While you were hoping for survival, he was preparing overflow. While you were expecting just enough, he was orchestrating more than enough. That is how he works. Abundantly, exceedingly, beyond what you can ask or think. He is not moved by panic. He is not rushed by anxiety. He is not limited by circumstance. What he begins, he finishes, and what he promises, he performs. And while you are walking through days that feel void of answers, know that you are surrounded by movements in heaven you may not yet understand, but will soon witness in glory. There are moments when heaven moves so swiftly it takes the breath away. One moment everything appears ordinary, routine, familiar, and the next, the atmosphere shifts, the earth trembles, and what was long expected suddenly becomes manifest. That is the nature of divine breakthrough. It does not always give warning. It does not arrive on a human schedule. It erupts suddenly, like light breaking through at midnight, like the sound of rushing wind in the upper room. When God moves, he often does so in a way that defies logic, surpasses expectation, and collapses years of waiting into a moment of glory. What took a lifetime to prepare can shift in the blink of an eye. What was long prayed for can come crashing into reality without notice, not because you earned it through effort, but because heaven has declared it is time. God is not slow, and he is never late. His ways are not delayed by earthly processes. When he decrees a thing, nothing can stop it. It may seem sudden to the world, but it has been in motion from the beginning. The Red Sea did not begin to part when Moses raised his staff. It was already being commanded from the throne of heaven. The stone at Lazarus' tomb did not roll away because of strength, but because the one who is resurrection and life called it into submission. The walls of Jericho did not fall merely by marching. They collapsed because God had spoken. So too, the breakthrough in your life, the sudden turn, the rapid restoration, the unexpected answer will not come because of your power, but because of his word. There is a divine suddenly appointed for every believer, a kairos moment when heaven's agenda intersects with earth's timeline. It is the moment that breaks the cycle, the minute that redefines the years, the encounter that rewrites the story. You may not see it coming, but that is the way of the Spirit. He comes like a thief in the night, not to steal, but to surprise. He moves like a mighty rushing wind, not to disturb, but to revive. And when he comes, nothing stays the same. The prison doors open, the chains fall off, the night gives way to morning, the morning gives way to dancing. Suddenly the barren sings, Suddenly the weary are strengthened. Suddenly the sick are healed. Suddenly the waiting is over. He delights in surprising his children. What man has written off, God restores. What people have forgotten, God remembers. What was buried in obscurity, he brings into light. The answer you thought had been lost, the door you assumed was closed forever, the dream you once abandoned, he can bring it back in an instant. Because he is the God of restoration, the God of recompense, the God who saves the best for last. You may feel forgotten in the shadows, but heaven is positioning you for sudden glory. When the hour strikes and the fullness comes, it will not be gradual. It will come crashing like a flood. It will erupt like fire shut up in your bones. It will arrive like a long-lost letter, finally delivered at the perfect moment, signed and sealed by the hand of the Almighty. God fulfills his promises in ways that often defy the limits of human understanding. He is not bound by the expected, nor is he confined to the methods we imagine. His ways are higher, his thoughts deeper, his plans far more intricate than what we could ever predict. He speaks a word and it carries the power to shape nations, shift destinies, and alter generations. Yet the way he brings that word to pass is rarely straightforward. It is not always through the loud and the visible, but often through the small, the hidden, the unexpected. A baby born in a manger changed the course of eternity. A shepherd boy overlooked by men became king over Israel. A prisoner forgotten in the dungeon became second to Pharaoh overnight. This is the rhythm of the kingdom. Glory birthed in obscurity, power revealed through humility, fulfillment emerging from unlikely places. When God begins to move, he rarely chooses the path of least resistance. He chooses the path that reveals his glory most completely. He lets the odds stack up, lets the clock tick down, lets the natural reach its end so that the supernatural becomes undeniable. He allowed the Red Sea to stand between his people and their freedom, not to block them, but to reveal that he is the one who makes a way where there is none. He waited until Lazarus was not just sick, but 4 days in the tomb, so that resurrection power would be seen in fullness. He let Sarah's womb remain barren until old age, so that her laughter would become the testimony of impossible turned possible. The promises of God are not only about what he does, but how he does it. He is the God who chooses the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. He is the one who picks up broken vessels to pour out his Spirit. He chooses people with pasts to shape the future. The method is part of the message. The longer the wait, the greater the wonder. The more impossible the situation, the more undeniable the miracle. He brings water from a rock, fire from heaven, life from dry bones. He is not restrained by conditions or qualifications. He does not ask permission to bless. He simply chooses, declares, and acts. When the fulfillment comes, it will not look like what you expected. It may come through a person you never thought would speak into your life, through a door you weren't even knocking on, through a moment that seemed ordinary until heaven breathed on it. That's why the walk of faith is not about control, but surrender. It's about being ready in and out of season. It's about trusting not only the promise, but the process. Because when God fulfills, he fulfills in fullness. When he restores beyond measure. When he answers with exceeding abundance. What you thought was lost is returning. What you thought was over is about to rise again. The fulfillment may not come the way you planned, but it will come in the way that brings him the most glory. Faith is not just the doorway to the promise, it is the foundation upon which the promise is built. Long before the fulfillment arrives, faith is what holds you steady through the silence, the storms, and the seasons that make no sense. Faith is not the absence of struggle. It is the refusal to let go of what God has spoken, even when nothing around you agrees with it. Every moment you chose to believe when you had no evidence. Every time you praised when you didn't see a reason. Every prayer you offered in secret when no answer came back. Those were the bricks laid in the path of your breakthrough. Faith is the currency of heaven, and your persistence in faith has not gone unnoticed. God honors faith not because it is perfect, but because it is persistent. The woman with the issue of blood pressed through the crowd not because she had certainty, but because she had faith. The centurion said only a word was needed, not because he had proof, but because he believed in authority. The blind man cried out louder when others told him to be silent, not because he saw, but because he trusted the one who could make him see. Every one of these moments was met with divine response. So too, your persistence has positioned you for the response you've been waiting for. Faith is not passive, it prepares. It builds the ark before the rain. It gathers vessels before the oil flows. It makes room for what has not yet arrived. And every time you resisted the urge to quit, every time you stayed in position when you could have walked away, you are preparing the ground for the miracle to land. Your faith has not only moved heaven, it has moved you into alignment with the appointed time. It has shaped your heart to carry what's coming. It has matured your spirit to receive without being overwhelmed. God never pours new wine into old wineskins. And faith is what forms the new within you. When the fulfillment comes, it will not surprise God. It will meet you where your faith already stood. It will come as a response to what was already growing within you. Because the promise was never just about what God would do for you. It was about what he was doing in you while you waited in faith.